Wait, we'll start it.
Okay.
All right. Hello,
I
everybody, and
gotta.
welcome
Hi.
to. Wait, why is there noise coming out of your? Oh, there was like
What's
the
going?
cat. Did the
It's the
cat do
cat.
something?
Is
All
not
right.
possibly what? Tell me
Welcome.
what the difficulty is.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome
All
to
right.
Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison. This is now we're gonna get into the same podcast episode, but we're gonna actually like look at the actual arguments before things, you know, just turned into
The whatever
basically personal
podcast.
attacks.
The whatever podcast. Team Charly versus Team Andrew. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna get into the meat of the arguments, as it were. Last time we covered the viral insults, or the insults that went viral. I apologize. For some reason, Voidcat just really loves me today. Probably because she wants another can of food, which she is not getting. You are not getting another can of food, no matter how much you beg. So we're going back to that podcast and we're pulling out the arguments as they were. In some cases, we're sort of reconstructing it from, I think, a lot of noise. And I'm not saying that the noise is coming from Andrew, but it is coming from somebody on that panel. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I went back through and I basically, Andrew would make a point and I would find where Charly actually addressed that point, and then if Andrew came back with something further. So that's where we're at. We're reconstructing the meat of the arguments from that panel so we can look at them. We can ascertain who actually won the point. And we're not just going to look at it from a logical perspective, because these debates take place on another level entirely, which is establishing and maintaining frames. So there are, from what my analysis, looking at this, I see three distinct frames. There is Andrew's conservative frame. I know he probably wouldn't identify as a conservative, maybe a paleo traditionalist, but it's a frame where you want the particular role or the particular expectations of men to be recognized, that men live up to them, and men also gain worth through living up to those expectations. It's a framework around manhood and expectations of men. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I see a lot of. Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I see a lot of traditionalists focus on, is that there is this framework that men need to live up to, and that they should be acknowledged as having worth if they do. But many traditionalists don't acknowledge that men have worth in and of themselves, or that necessarily they have particular abilities and skills that lead to being able to live up to these standards that women may not have. So it's more like you live up to this standard because otherwise you are expendable. I'm not saying that Andrew completely buys into that framework, but I think he's coming more from that traditionalist approach to manhood. Then there's Charly's framework, and Charly's framework is the dominant framework of our society. And that framework is, you want to establish that men, or maintain that men, are a threat to women in society, that men do not offer anything unique. So you won't even recognize that they're being held to a higher standard of women, much less the traditional recognition that they're held to that higher standard and should be respected, and people should be grateful for that. So you don't even want to do that. You don't even want to recognize that men are held to a higher standard, nor do you want to recognize any unique value proposition that men provide the societies they're part of. And you want to, at every moment, neutralize, hide, or minimize any kind of vulnerabilities or sacrifices men make in society. And that's because Charly is trying to uphold an ideological position that societies benefit men asymmetrically at the expense of women. And in order to uphold that position, you can't talk about things like maybe unique biological benefits that men give society. You can't talk about any of the sacrifices that men endure in order to provide those benefits to society. And you have to frame men as a threat. So these are the three frames, and we're going to go through the arguments that I reconstructed from that soup. And again, I'm not throwing shade at Andrew. He wasn't the one supplying the lukewarm viscous fluid for most of this. That was coming from other parties. And we're going to reconstruct it, and we're going to look at it and see if which frame reigns supreme in each of the arguments. So that's laying it out there. Did I Did I reveal too much? I don't know. Brian, what do you think? No, okay. So I think I gave a good framework. Hopefully you guys understand. If you don't, just message me. Hey, crazy
Well, we
autistic
can.
lady, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, if something happens in the video that
Yeah.
supports your claims, then you can just interrupt and point it out at that point.
Yeah,
So,
okay, sure. Yeah,
so
so
maybe you should do the
just
things, and then we'll
oh
get
yeah,
into
I'll do
it.
the things. But before I do, guys, message in the chat. You can send a message and I will note and respond to it if you don't understand what I'm getting at, if you have any questions. And if you want to send a comment, right, that just whatever you want to say. You like my hat. You think I'm completely wrong. You think Brian is wrong. You think everything is wrong. You think the world is wrong. Just send it to feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And I don't want to typecast you. You guys could also be sending us, everything is right. And, that whatever you want, whatever commentary you want to give. If you think I'm right about my assessment of how an argument went, if you think that it went a different way, then feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Please do send those in because they really do help us out being able to bring you this content. And in a bit, I will do I'll point you all to supporting us as well. But for now, let's get into it.
All
You
right.
got all the
Well,
time codes, Brian? You got everything ready?
I do. I mean, yeah. What do you want me to start with?
Oh, Shadow the Master says, I think you framed the frame well, Allison. Thank you. I think you framed my framing of the frame well as well. Okay,
Okay.
next.
So what's the
This
first
kid-
time code we're doing?
All right, let me just okay. So we have a couple in the subject of draft war. We have the play 1. I did this all in different
I think
plays.
that's most of the discussion because it's ultimately about um like male disposability, or
Mm-hmm.
like the difference between male disposability and female perceived victimhood, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that just something
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah. And I think one of the main ways that I think I'm going to just say conservatives. I don't mean all conservatives. I know a lot of people in this position don't even identify
I'm
as
not
conservatives.
offended, just make the claim. It's fine.
Okay. All right. I think one of the big differences is that conservatives do embrace the idea that men are expendable, but should be respected, and people should feel grateful for them when they live up to a standard. Whereas because we focus on ways that men aren't necessarily living up to a standard, but society is actually failing them, we are proposing that men have an inherent value and they should be helped when they have problems, and society shouldn't make those problems worse. Okay, so I think that those two framings are different, and it's really critical to point that difference out, because I think from my perspective there's a big blind spot that conservatives fall in, and that is that men do have value and they should be supported when they fail to live, even when they fail to live up to the standards we've set them to, because if we do support them, they can live up to those standards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a different framework. And I'm not saying all conservatives look at the world that way. Right. And certainly they aren't as bad as what the people who are calling themselves the left, who are basically political tribalists, because they're actively kneecapping men. Let's face it. They're actively, conservatives are saying you need to overcome your problems or you don't have worth. Liberals are like, God, we're going to give you some more of their problems, men. We're going to make them worse. So there's a difference in the worsening of conservatives versus liberals when it comes to men's rights and men's issues. Okay, so the plays that we have under draft and war is Super Soldier Frame, but I feel like that one isn't really good to go into because it's mostly, like me and Brian were talking about this, mostly like just setting up the background for why Andrew believes what he believes and why Charly is sort of out to lunch. And basically all it is, men are stronger, so they make more effective soldiers. However, I would counter this by saying that if we lived in a patriarchy that truly put men first and found them more valuable, then why not just send women to war because they're expendable and they don't have any social value? And if both sides, like the two patriarchies on both sides, agree and say, wait, we much prefer to save our very valuable and precious sons versus our worthless and valueless daughters. Why don't they just both send women to fight? And then if women are fighting women, the strength doesn't matter. You know what I mean? You get it? Like, that makes perfect sense to me from a purely mechanistic society that puts men's benefit before women. Like, I don't know. Anyway, but the point is here, men are physically stronger. So unfortunately, even if the patriarchies agree to make their daughters fight it out, at some point there'll probably be a society that says, hey, why don't we send our sons instead and we'll win? And they will. And so that's, it's not really a long-term. And that's what basically the super soldier frame is about. It's just men are stronger, so they make better soldiers. Okay.
So should I play that clip or?
No, let's go to one sex fights, two sex votes. So that supports the next play, which is one sex fights, two sex vote, which is essentially what I brought up like decades ago, which is you are creating a situation of disadvantage when you have an expectation that one sex fight, but both sex get to vote. The sex that has to fight will end up paying the cost of the sex that doesn't and their political decisions. And that immediately creates a second-class citizenship among men, with men. All right, let's look at that.
All right, I jumped up to that first time code.
Because they become a hindrance. And so I guess all I really need here is just the agreement that it will always be the case, no matter what, that it'll be heavily 98% or so of men who will be engaged in frontline combat operations. If that's the case, then they have the most to risk when it comes to warfare.
I would like to point something out here. It's always going to be like 95%, 99, 98% men, because society, it's not because men are stronger. Like, I'll just peel back to my suggestion that patriarchy just make women fight, and then it doesn't matter, women aren't strong as men because they're going to be fighting other women. Yeah. But the point is that our societies see men, we tolerate men coming home in body bags more than we do women. So it's likely that that's the real reason. And in fact, if you go back to World War II and the parliamentary discussions on drafting women, not wanting to impose the hardship of war on women was the actual reason. In fact, they made a statement saying that, yes, they thought that women could, do what men could do. They just felt that they shouldn't have to, and they certainly shouldn't be compelled to. Right? So it doesn't really come down to strength differential. It really comes down to social worth. Okay. Did you want to add something to that, Brian?
I mean, we're a sexually dimorphic species. Men are different, not just physically, but also like we have evolved to be prepared to make sacrifices if necessary. So, I mean, we're not going to live in a world without war. I mean, we're just not. So like there's just going to be hostility. There's just going to be like, like we're about to revert to a point where we're going to be up against the elements again if we keep on this trajectory. And when that happens, men are going to be necessary and they're going to be expendable, but we're going to be willing to do it because we want to survive as a species. And I don't think men even have a problem with that, really, because they want to, overall, they want to secure the future for the human race. And that includes, primarily their own children, if they have them, and their family members. So like accepting that as a reality isn't necessarily not caring about men. It's understanding that women can't do what men do. And so we need it to get done. We can't expect women to do it. We just can't. Like, that's just, insane.
I'm going to put a fine point on it, though. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, finish your thought, and then I'll...
No, but I'm just saying, like, that's just the reality. I don't think it's... I don't know. I mean, that's what I think. I don't think generally... I don't believe that conservatives are interested in using men as cannon fodder. I think that they acknowledge that men are worth something as human beings, too. But that the reality is that, when sacrifice is necessary, even though we should be very careful about avoiding it, it's probably, yes, more tolerable that it happen to men than women or children. So
Yeah.
if it's going to come from
Um,
somewhere, you know, um,
personally,
I got a super
okay, go
chat,
ahead.
but
Yeah.
I'm sorry. From
Well,
Shadow the Master gave us $5 Australian and said, Brian, what is the necklace around your neck? Love you guys. Well, thank you, Shadow the Master. This is a Crusader cross or a Jerusalem cross, a 5-fold cross. It's got like a big cross in the middle with 4 small crosses around it. It was basically like a heraldic cross that like the Crusaders had on their shields during the Crusades, basically. So thank you.
mhm.
I think it's a really cool looking cross. So anyway.
Yeah, I want to make state my case. First of all, I have had these arguments with conservatives. There is a number of conservatives who believe things like weak men create weak societies and that kind of stuff. And honestly, I think it's more societies fail their men. And while I agree that men are stronger, they are more capable of taking these risks and these hardships on. I don't think that they owe it to any society to do so, to use those particular strengths in the service of that society, unless that society has taken pains to reduce the possibility and to minimize it and to understand that men have this and is absolutely horrified at the thought of having to expend its sons in any capacity. And that is absolutely the last resort, and doesn't see the situation in terms of society, its sons having to prove itself to society, but society having to prove itself worthy of its son's sacrifice. So I think there's a difference there. And I see a lot of conservatives, at least the ones I argue with, but Twitter is Twitter. Everybody's high as like strung up like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. But there is that difference that men have nothing to prove to anyone. I'm gonna be
Mhm.
honest. That's my perspective. Men have nothing to prove. They aren't weak. They're still doing what they do, which is provide and protect for other people. Right? They're still trying to make it work in this world. It's our society that has massively failed them. Has failed to deal with their mental health issues, their social crises, their relationship crises, like that has perpetuated a massive threat narrative against them. Now, I think on the conservative point, they would probably call out feminists for not giving men the external standard, whereas I call out feminists for not giving men the support they need and turning this social attitudes towards men into a threat narrative in which they outsize men's threat to women and society in order to manipulate people, to give them clout and money. So that's where I'm coming from. I don't think our society is worthy of men's sacrifice. I think a lot has to change before we are. And I think that, again, yes, we can recognize that men are uniquely strong, physically strong, and uniquely capable of enduring certain types of hardships. But that isn't an excuse to lean on that every time our society fucks something up. Like, men aren't a bandage for our problems. They shouldn't be blamed for things that they aren't responsible for and they haven't done. And so that's where my approach comes from, because I'm strict men's issues. I'm strictly, we need to stop taking a sledgehammer to the engine of society, right? That like conservatives can say what the engine should be doing all they like. Meanwhile, the left, or whatever is wearing the skin of the left, is taking a sledgehammer to the engine. Okay, and saying, well, men should embody this external standard, or men should weak men create weak societies, and all of this stuff doesn't change the fact and is not addressing the fact that the left is taking a sledgehammer to men. And we need to stop that before we can start talking about what the engine needs to do. And it's not even an ethical issue. It's like, you're not going to go anywhere with an engine if you're taking a sledgehammer to it. And if you want to use that engine, you got to stop the person taking the sledgehammer to it, before you can even start talking about what you want to use the engine for, what standards men should uphold, how a happy wife makes a happy life, and all of this other stuff. Okay. Did you want to add anything to that, or should we actually get to a time
No, let's
code?
get into the video.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
The case that they have the most risk during warfare, and it is, I think that it's a fundamental unfairness in society, not just an unfairness, but a great injustice that women are allowed to vote on policies for warfare that they then don't have to go fight. As much as it upsets me that Congress can make laws and exempt itself from them, it's just as much of an injustice to me that Congress can do that as it is an injustice to me that women can do this to men.
Good framing.
Okay.
He's emphasizing that women have the power, they are a threat to men, and men are vulnerable to it. Let's see. I don't really have a lot of faith in Charly as a single instance of a good debater, but she's got a lot on her side in terms of big guns, like already universalized narratives. But let's see how she responds. Are we at that point yet, or are we still in Andrews?
I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
watched this in a bit, but
Okay.
okay.
I mean, so would you say that only able-bodied men under a certain age should be allowed to vote?
No, because of what's called fighting potential. So the idea is just this: it may be extraordinarily rare that you'd ever need to get somebody who's disabled or very old or very infirm to fight in frontline combat, but if you do, it's going to be men, and the potential remains for men, and the potential is not there for women.
Do you think that men with significant disabilities would be better frontline combatants than women?
What the hell is this weeds? Good Lord.
Yeah, I mean, she's saying, like, in this hypothetical, do you think that disabled guys are better fighters? It's irrelevant. They would get drafted. That's the point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like a
Well, it
guy with
depends on-
one leg, if they're like low enough on men, and if there's like a 70-year-old dude with like one leg, they're gonna draft him before they draft any women. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and it's
So-
not, but again, like it's not about strength, like I was saying. It's about what we consider to be expendable and what we're willing to have suffer for us. Now, I don't know what the hell she's on about. Where are we in the time codes? Let me see. Let me reverse engineer.
2036.
2036. Okay, so we've gone really far back. Can we go to?
No, it was like one sex fights, two
Oh,
sexes.
you're right. 2036. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But we were only supposed to go 1928.
All right. Yeah. So
Let's
you
go
want
to-
me to jump ahead to the next one?
Yeah, I know it's gonna be-
4431. So
Yeah.
it's like way over here.
All right. So the frame before we get into it is basically Andrews said that it's pretty much always going to be men who are fighting in war, right? And
He does say it's an injustice that
Yes, he
women
does say
get
it's
to
an
decide
injustice.
to send men to their deaths.
Yes.
Which is an acknowledgement that there are people who can vote for the fates of other people that
Yes,
take
without sparing them.
they don't have to pay any checks that they're basically filling out. And he
Yeah,
compares them to congressmen who do that, saying it's like when you have like, warmongering neocon rhinos that send people to the Middle East to die to get oil or whatever the narrative is.
Or women's rights.
And they don't themselves have to do it. And this is the same thing.
Yeah.
So-
Yep. I think that this is an excellent, like, I think Andrew's really doing well in the men's issues frame. Right. I think that from a very blue-pilled conservative perspective, they would say because men have this ability, they owe it to societies. But I'm talking about working within the context of female, like feminist framework. But anyway, let's keep going.
All right.
See what Charly has to say to that.
The men in Ukraine feel about it, because I do think that there are often men with very, strong ideas about chivalry who would say that's my duty.
Sure. Totally
and
agree.
to carry on our country.
yeah, I completely agree.
Women need to go because
Yeah.
that's very much.
Well,
a
what would
thing.
that have to do with the justice of it all or the injustice of it all?
Well, there's no justice in that. That's not.
Yeah, it's not just. And so the thing is,
But
is
also,
that when I
So she was trying to basically say, well, men dying in war using Ukraine, because that's why this is a bit of a gap. They were talking about the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And Andrew was pointing out that, because she was saying, well, we haven't done a draft in so many years. It was a little bit before this. And he's like, well, they did in Ukraine. They're drafting people into Ukraine right now. There's guys that are,
Men.
on the front lines that are like 60 plus years old, 65 years old, and she's like, well, isn't that just chivalry? So she was trying to say that men being drafted to fight in a war when they're in their 60s is just old. It's that old patriarchy again. And he was like, that's not a commentary on whether or not it's just or unjust, right? You're just saying, you're trying to blame men for this. So
Exactly. Yeah. She's trying to reframe men's agency and reframe blame away from women.
Yep.
Okay, that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to maintain that threat narrative. Men are to blame, and they're a threat, and they have no vulnerabilities. So let's see how.
All right.
Let's see how.
Well, let me see. What is this? 45-21. There's still a little bit more. We haven't. Actually, no, that's the end of that clip. But I could play more if you want to.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see.
Then there's Charly saying that she would vote against the draft. So I can jump ahead to that.
Let's see what Andrew has to say. I'm curious.
All right.
For the practical
these sorts of votes to pass, is it a woman in power that is making these things happen?
Well, in a democracy, yes. Aren't all women in power? Yeah.
So she's now first, just so you guys see what she's doing. First, she tries to blame it on chivalry, which is basically another way of blaming it on men. That doesn't work. Then she tries to blame it on, who are the people, in the big house that are in power that are actually sending these men to war? Because another thing feminists do is they'll say, well, it's men in positions of government that send men to war, so it's obviously not my problem. And he's like, no, women vote for these people, which is it is true. I mean, men also vote for these people, but I think in general, when people are casting their ballots, men are at least aware that if they vote for a warmonger, it could be a problem for them, at least personally, right? Women, I don't think they think about that as much.
No.
I mean, as long as the guy's promising gives, it doesn't matter, right? Like Obama got elected twice and he was drone striking the Middle East the whole time. And nobody talks about it because it wasn't in the media or anything. But women voted for him because they wanted to be the person that voted for the black guy that time. So they made history, but and I think that it is an important thing to point out.
Yeah, and I mean, what she's trying to do is just reframe it to blame men, and maintain the threat narrative.
Exactly.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
No,
you don't have the power to vote.
I can vote, but the people who are deciding what I can.
Then you
vote
have
on,
equal power to men.
Certainly, yes, the men of my status, but not the lawmakers, not the politicians.
You voted for. Okay, here's what's so infuriating with this particular framing. The vote is so important. You don't mean anything in society unless you have the vote. Well, you are equally responsible, if not more responsible, for using your vote to vote in warmongers. Oh no, the vote is meaningless. It's not worth anything. It just as soon as this thing that you want it actually means that you are going to be responsible for something, suddenly it's meaningless. So which is it? Is the vote meaningless, therefore getting the vote didn't give you any power, or is the vote meaningful, therefore you are responsible for what you're doing with your vote? You see how they frame this? It's infuriating. Okay. I don't think we're going to get through many of these.
All right. You want to get to the next one?
Yeah, let's get to the next one.
Play the rest of this or jump to the next one?
Jump to the next one because we're done the rest of this.
All right. So the next one is her saying, well, I wouldn't vote for this, which is another dumb argument. Because it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
matter. So 53-55, right here. We'll just move forward like 10 seconds. All right.
Either of you being called in a draft to go to the front lines to fight. Slim to none. However,
She's saying I wouldn't, like the odds of you guys getting drafted are slim to none, which is a lie.
It is
Which
a
is
lie.
a lie, because if the government needs men bodies badly enough, they will draft men of whatever age. I could be drafted even though I'm not in shape or anything, but if they need it badly enough, like in Ukraine, that's the primary example, then they will do it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, okay, they will draft men who are outside of what you would expect a combat aged man for. But the other thing is, there are men still alive who were subjected to the draft, right? There are men who still remember this injustice. Okay. There like, wait, what, 10 women alive who still remember a time without women having the vote? And yet we are supposed to submit to the land acknowledgement when it comes to the vote and women, and just hand wave something that has happened in living memory to men. See what I'm saying? It's like there's this complete hypocrisy here. She could meet men who were subject to the draft. Andrew's never going to meet a woman who wasn't able to vote. Certainly not a woman who wasn't able to vote by the time she hit 18. Like maybe you'd meet a woman who was like, oh, my mother wasn't able to vote. But you will not meet a woman who could not vote at some point in her life at this point in time. And yet you can meet a man who was forced to drop everything in his life, forced to let go of all of his hopes for himself and his plans for himself, and go and fight in a war that, in retrospect, made very little sense. Okay? And that's the difference. And yet we can't recognize the draft as an injustice that men face, but we have to constantly, oh, we're sorry. Women didn't have the vote. They didn't have the vote. They got the vote when universal suffrage for all men was created, but not before then. Like we have to constantly be like, oh yeah, we need to make reparations for the time that women didn't have the vote. And it's now a century away. But we can't even consider the time that men were subject to the draft, even though it's not a century away. It's within living memory. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm done.
Slim to none. However, I am against the draft, and I would support any legal motion to remove the draft. I would vote for that.
Yeah,
I would use my power as a woman.
Yeah, that's great, but
to vote.
it's not.
That's very nice.
What I'm saying.
That's very
Yeah.
nice. But again, you are going to bring up women's lack of a vote as historic injustice, as a bludgeon to derive clout and access to resources today. And yet you will not contend with the fact that it's a much less far back in time injustice, that men are still alive who are subjected to this. You won't contend with that at all. You'll just completely ignore. Oh, it's not going to happen. It's not going to. Well, women are unlikely to lose the vote, to be honest, because they'd have to vote for it. So there you go. But men are far more likely to end up in a draft, and they have memories of having been subjected to the draft. And you're just hand waving that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's do.
Contending with what I'm saying. Even if that's the
Yeah.
case, that's nice that you say
100%.
that. Right. But our global leaders are never going to get rid of the draft because their military advisors tell them not to, because it's a huge weapon for mobilization of military force if you need it. So we're never going to get rid of it. That's just a fucking pipe dream.
You know what's happened instead is that they're making the draft more and more invisible. So you get put on a list whenever you interact with any citizenship benefits, like getting a driver's license or registering to vote or a passport. You get put on a draft without your knowledge and without your consent as a man. That's what they did in Canada. The Canadians are like, oh, we don't even have selective service. Bitch, you have selective service. You just don't know it because Canadian men are put on a list without being told. And this is what, they say, oh, we got rid of selective service in the draft. No, I would suspect there is no government that has ever truly gotten rid of selective service. They've just hidden it.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to deal with the questions it brings up and the arguments. They don't want to have to deal with the potential of men protesting it. So they just hide it. Ugh. Okay.
All right.
Shall we?
So remove women's ability to vote, and then we'll never go to war. Is that your thinking?
No, I'm saying that this injustice and unfairness, and by the way, like when you bring up, you say, well, what about 60-year-olds? They can't be drafted. Okay, but they could have been when they were in their 20s and signed up for the draft, which you didn't have to. So their potential was already there and exhausted. They already had to go through that stage of life where their number could be called and yours couldn't. So yeah, they still get the benefit. They still did the thing that you guys will never fucking do. They still did it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Charlie. Keep your vote, but get rid of the narrative that you're a victim relative to men. Keep your vote, ladies, but no longer can you continue to assert victimhood relative to men. How about that? Okay? How about you just acknowledge the injustice? That's what Andrews is saying. Just acknowledge the injustice. We don't have to talk about, well, you shouldn't have, that means you want to get rid of women's. You're reframing the injustice in terms of harm to women instead of acknowledging the injustice to men. That's what she's doing. And she's trying to silence it because she doesn't want, you got the threat narrative. You got to minimize Ben's vulnerability. You got to maximize their threat and their negative intent and agency. And that's how it goes. And that's what she's doing. That's what she's hanging on to with both fists and her monkey toes. All right.
Again, like Andrew's not actually debating to take the vote away. He's using it as an example of female privilege.
Yes.
That's what the point is. It's to sort of like blow that whole thing up, right? So I got a couple super chows. The Fish Got Nukes gave us $5 super chow and says, Badgers, please get right with Jesus. Time is running short. Want to see you guys up there. Also, you by now must realize the 19th must be repealed to save Western civilization, and it's not going to happen. So just get right with Jesus. Thank you. Go Badgers. Thank you, Fish. Appreciate the message. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think the 19th is going anywhere. It's a meme as far as I'm concerned, but it does piss off feminists, so I have fun with it. But it's not going anywhere, But maybe like if we're having, the thing is, I think that Andrew does this for the same reasons that I do it. I bring it up because it's worth talking about just how much consequence there is to women's actions, and that's like a really obvious one. We can talk about that, abortion, child abuse, things like this. And the thing is that something that's very rock solid, that is inarguable, is the draft and the vote. So like because without the draft, I mean, if you don't sign up for the draft, you are subject as a man to lots of penalties, one of which is you can't vote. So men don't get the vote if they don't sign up. Women get the vote by default. So literally men actually have less of the right to vote. Not that the vote is a right, because it's not, but they have less of access to the vote than women do. And talking about it in this way is a way to get people to think about it, because we take this for granted all the time. And so when you talk about it, you just put it in their head to think about. So that's the goal. Why I joke about the 19th all the time. I don't think it's going away, because women would actually have to vote for that. And I don't think that's going to happen.
If at any point women actually vote for that, I think the problem is probably solved.
Yeah, if it gets to the point where women are willing to vote for it, then that means that we've solved the problem. Exactly.
Yeah. But sorry for leaving. I wanted to get myself a glass of water, or actually I think I'm getting Void Cat a glass of water. but hopefully I'll get a few sips in before she decides to take it over. All right, let's continue.
All right, next super chat. I got another super chat
Okay.
from Richard Bier for $5, and he says, instead of taking the right to vote away from women, just have the Candace Owens podcast about whatever conspiracy theory of the week is running on election day. The women will be too riveted to the podcast to show up to the polls. Not exactly voter suppression either. Thank you, Richard. Yes, I get it. I get the joke. I see what you did there. Okay. So let's, do you want me to play the rest of this? Let him make his point, or?
Yeah, let him make his point.
All right.
Yeah. And then I will do the summation of this particular argumentation. Okay. Let's do it.
Moving on to the next thing.
No. Let him finish the point here.
Okay. All right. Let's play it.
The thing is like it just stands like this to reason, right? It doesn't matter if the 18-year-old never gets called to a draft. The potential is only there that he will. And you can't get mad at him later because he still maintains voting rights or certain rights that you don't get, because he still went through the process of signing up for the draft and had the potential to be called, and you never did.
Okay, so right there. Bam. Bam. Yeah, you win.
I would have driven it home a different way. I would have said, you can't get mad at him because he didn't go to war and die and could no longer vote. Because that's another thing too, right? A man who is drafted and goes to war and dies there, well, he doesn't get to vote. I mean, in some elections he might get to vote. He might get to vote for Biden, but like in general, he's on paper he's not supposed to be able to vote because he's dead. So I would have pointed out that like getting drafted or like being like signed up for the draft is not something to be taken lightly, because what these people do is they sort of hand wave it like, well, we haven't had a draft in a long time, and if you say, well, they're doing it right now, well, you're going to get all the glory or something, right? Or you're not going to see action, or you're not going to, it's always like, how do I take these situations that have like as much a risk of death or dismemberment or PTSD or other kind of harm as there is none, and just try to minimize that damage. So yeah, a woman gets the vote. A man who gets drafted may not vote because he may not come back alive. So that's how I would put it, or at least try to like put a fine point on.
Yeah.
So,
and ultimately I would have put it, okay, we live in a time period where you can talk to men who've been subject to the draft. There's no women alive who weren't able to vote. Okay, so why is it that one thing you're saying that one thing is more important, or you're going to use the vote as a bludgeon to assert moral dominance and demand tithe, but you refuse to acknowledge the more recent tragedy and the more recent disenfranchisement? Okay, let's go to the next. Oh, wait, before we do that, let me do the summation. Here we go. All right, winner, Andrew. Also, partially men's rights frame as well, or at least a dual win for Andrew in the men's rights frame. He forces recognition of a uniquely male burden, right? And he forces her to recognize that it is a situation where women have power over men and do not face the same sacrifice. Charly's attempt to generalize war, or generalize the suffering of war, doesn't fully erase that recognition. Right. This is actually perplexity. I asked perplexity, based on this framework, who won? And in this case, Andrew and us. Yay, go us. At least, yeah. Okay. Play 3 is the illusory
benefits of war.
Illusory benefits of war. Let's do it.
All right, 51. Just check it here again. Just double check. 51-55. So, like right here.
It's a huge injustice that one portion of the population has the potential to always fight wars on behalf of the other. The other doesn't have to fight it, gets all the benefits of them doing it, right? And we're supposed to just be like, well, okay then.
The benefits.
It's like, yeah, fuck that. No, that's not okay then.
The benefits, like having your male family members die, potential wartime rape if your country is.
The benefits of you.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? That was the Hillary Clinton thing. women are the primary victims of war because their husbands, brothers, fathers, and sons all die.
Women are the primary victims of war because their oppressors die. Yeah, peddle that
because their
somewhere else.
oppressors die, right?
Yeah, no, not in the context of your framing of the relationship between men and women, dear. Are we at 52:19 yet, or
I just backed up a little bit. I want to hear it again, but let's.
Okay.
Gets all the benefits of them doing it, right? And we're supposed to just be like, well, okay then.
The benefits,
it's like, yeah, fuck that. No, that's
like,
not okay then.
The benefits like having your male family members die, potential wartime rape if your country is
the benefits of you not being fucking occupied and being able to get all your resources. Those are bigger benefits.
Doesn't ensure
yeah, okay, and then here's another benefit. All right, here's another benefit. Okay. As a result of World War II, the U.S. was established as the world reserve currency, which, there's a few steps in between, there's a, couple steps, question mark, she gets an avocado toast job. She gets to pretend to have some kind of marketable skill with her, I don't know, women's studies master's, right? Or what is it, political science? I don't know what she got it in. But she gets to pretend, she gets to have a life without men's support. Like that was a benefit of World War II. For the West, I would say, but also the US being the world reserve currency, allowing for a situation where you can have massive government deficits that employ women like this. Now, I think most people on this channel would not regard that as a benefit, and she probably doesn't even understand what I'm talking about. But to elaborate on, it's basically an elaboration on Andrew's point that women enjoy the bonus of additional resources acquired through war. I think in Sumer, I think it was Sumer, or at least one of those really old civilization, the word for war was the same word as more cattle, right?
Oh,
yeah. And ethnographers who've looked at, and anthropologists who've looked at historically in society, it's resources. Societies go to war over resources. Okay? So if you're part of a successful society who's gone to war over resources, if you're a woman in that society, you are going to benefit. You are going to get additional resources. And in certain time periods, you'll get, a couple slave women to do your work for you, that kind of thing. So yes, women did benefit from war. They benefited immensely from war, which is probably why they continued to teach boys and young men that was an essential component of their identity. I mean, in addition to the natural, like men, like most male social mammals do defend their social group. Like that's, but there's also the socialization on top of that to who you're supposed to defend, right? So that women have been part of this from the beginning. They've been benefiting it from the beginning. And the other thing is that this discussion always revolves around war, but this instinct that men have that gets exploited in war is also useful for building skyscrapers, tunneling under the Thames, creating the Hoover Dam, piloting the Edmund Fitzgerald over like one of the Great Lakes. This desire to protect and endure hardship for your social group has a lot more benefits than soldiering and men going to war. In fact, I would argue that war is an exploitation of that instinct. So it's like we use men to solve political conflicts in the current era. We use men to solve those kinds of conflicts. Like it's a failure of societies to solve these problems, so they send their sons to war, and it makes them feel like it's but there are other ways that we use men's expendability, and war shouldn't be separated from all of that other stuff. It shouldn't be separated from how we sacrifice men to maintain our infrastructure. Like it shouldn't be separated from the men who died building the Hoover Dam, or died building a skyscraper, or died tunneling under the Thames. It shouldn't be separated from those sacrifices because it's all the same thing. It just so happens that we also sacrifice men to solve political disputes and get more resources as societies. So, I mean, do you see what I'm saying? It's like, this shouldn't be separated. This is all part of the same continuity, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Andrew would disagree with any of that.
No, I'm not saying it to Andrew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just, like I said, I think that the conversation about war and the draft is the one that has the finest, most clear point, like the least, the point that is the hardest to disagree with. It's the strongest point, but all those other points are also true. But I mean, like women like Charly will weasel around them anyway.
Yeah, and she's saying that women do not benefit from men going to war.
Right.
Even if women don't benefit from men going to war specifically, they benefit from the social phenomenon or the evolutionary or whatever, the cycle, whatever you want to call it, that men sacrifice for the benefit of their social groups. They benefit from it in other circumstances, and you can't take those circumstances away from also using men expendability or expending men in solving political problems. That's what I'm saying. So even if she can argue, oh, women don't benefit from war, women sure as hell benefit from clean water. They benefit from electricity. They benefit from natural gas, nuclear, fossil fuels, all of this stuff, which is maintained by men. And it's maintained because men are willing to take these risks, for money, for social, but also just to provide for their families, right? So it's all a continuum. War is just an extreme end of that continuum. It's the most useless waste of men's willingness to take on risk and hardship to protect others. The most useless waste, but it's on a continuum. So when she says, oh, I don't benefit from war, well, it's not just war we're talking about, is it? It's every circumstance where men expend themselves in order to protect and provide for others. That's what I'm saying. I'm pointing it at Charly, not at Andrew, Brian.
Well, I'm just saying, like that further strengthens our position, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, so should I play more of this or jump ahead to the next thing?
Jump ahead to the next thing.
All right, so the next thing is Charly arguing almost no one benefits except ultra wealthy women suffer too, which I think we just did. That's 52. Actually, no, we're getting on it now. So let me play this.
Occupied. Again, what that means is that a good chunk of the money that we make will be going to war.
I assure you, you're wrong.
Our country will get
I assure you that if you refuse to go to war, you will be occupied.
Let her finish. Go ahead.
We will also be, again, if our country goes to war, any country that votes to go to war, there's a chance that they could be invaded and their women could be subjected to wartime essay. Again, also...
Yeah, but that is not...
Yeah, after the men are dead.
Yeah, after the men are dead.
Yeah,
that's a risk that you take for war. That's not...
It's a risk you take for being alive. Like, just like... sorry, like the world is not safe.
Yeah, also men get raped in war, friend.
Like the only a person who lives in the first world like Charly, that where they're so safe and so comfortable, can they look at the idea of this potential outcome of like being invaded, conquered, and then, taken in by the invading force and being like basically made to integrate, which is what happens to the women generally. Like even an enemy invading force values women's, like the life of a woman more than the men, obviously. Like they'll at least keep them because they're like, well, we can use them, and of course she'll say, well, that's worse than dying. Like, no, I mean, and look, I'm not trying to make light of it, but only you can be so comfortable that you can't look at that dispassionately and stoically and say, well, this is a reality that we have to live with. It's like never having been exposed to crime and then saying crime shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, she can say that. It's just that she can't say, well, okay. So yes, this is a risk that societies take. And if the situation happens that a society ends up losing all of its sons and gets invaded, well, first of all, do women really really do that badly when they're invaded? I seem to recall some like in journals or diaries of French women, how when the Germans managed to invade their country in the 40s, World War II, how they described how the French men who had lost were so furtive and failed, and it was like rodent men, and then the big, wild, strong, like big, wild, strong, confident German men, and they're like, ooh la la, like, do they really lose out that much? I mean, in some societies they did. So, for example, in Germania, like back in like back in ancient Rome, with those kinds of societies there, for whatever reason, if you won, you killed everyone. You sacrificed everyone to Wotan. You threw everyone in the swamp. So they evolved this thing where if you failed on the battlefield, the women would kill the fleeing men, then kill their children, then kill themselves to avoid capture. So, maybe in that society, you can say women really suffered with to the same degree that men did with war. But, I'm not
Seems like
so
a bit of a
convinced.
fringe example.
No, it's not that fringe. It had a pretty big influence on Romans and also on European history. Like, we're talking about a fairly large population body, and but I don't want to necessarily get in that. I don't, but that's not what she's talking about. It's the whole, like, Hillary Clinton, women are the biggest victims of war, like you mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
all the UN talking about how women are the biggest victims of war because they're the ones who end up in the refugee camps. And let's go, where are the men? Raped and dead in a ditch.
Yeah, men got raped too,
Yes, and actually,
they get
some
raped
of the
also.
studies, one study from the Congo found actually what would is a surprising amount of rape by women in wartime.
Mhm.
Something like, I think it was 10% of men were raped by women, and that's got to be higher. And 40% of women were raped by women in wartime. Like, it's higher than you would think. Okay,
Yep.
so when she's talking about, women are going to be invaded and raped, well, you may not always be raped by the male invaders, lady. You might also find yourself with the unwanted attentions of of a female invader as well. Okay, let's keep going. Oh,
All
wait,
right.
this is done, isn't it?
No,
We're
no,
done
no.
with this
It's
one?
not. No, it's not.
Okay, we're not done. Keep going
In
then.
times of war, things are tough. Your resources are not there. People starve during wartime. There is very few people who actively benefit from war, except for the ultra wealthy.
Yeah, but do you understand that the case in point is that it's going to be men who are going to do this? And when you say things that are, they just sound absurd to me, like, there's no guarantee that you still won't be occupied even if you send the men off to war. It's like, so what? You're still sending the men off to war. And
Yeah.
you just don't ever have that potential. Like, that's nothing you ever have to worry about. When you go down and you sign up to vote, you don't have to sign a draft card. Like, you don't get put
Okay, let's
in
put
the
it this way.
system.
Let's put it this way. Okay, a society sends its sons off to war and wins. Women get the benefit of the resources. A society sends its sons off and loses. The society gets invaded. Everybody in that society suffers. But in both cases, men are suffering. Right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Both
she was
cases.
trying to do a two
Even
wrongs
when
equal
the
to who
society,
cares, but it
even
it
when the
is
society wins,
men
even
men
when
are
the
men
society
are
wins, men
yeah.
suffer. Even when the society wins, men suffer. When the society loses, women also suffer. But that's the outcome that you don't want. And she's trying to pretend that that's equal. It isn't. Okay.
Yep. All right, let me look at the time code here.
I think we're done with this. Like, I don't know if,
3:21.
oh,
Yeah,
is it
that's done. So
okay. All right, let's do the analysis here. Okay. Illusory benefits of war. Charly says only the ultra wealthy benefit, which flattens sex distinctions and contribution and dilutes the idea that women as a class free wide on men's sacrifice. If the society wins, men have still suffered, but women benefit. It only happens that women also suffer if the society loses, and maybe somewhat during the war because of privation. Andrew insists others, including women, benefit from men's risks, highlighting male contribution, but again, mostly as sacrificial. Winner, Andrew, narrowly. He maintains a narrative of unique male sacrifice. Charly's everybody suffers, elites only frame leans towards erasing ordinary men's sacrifice role, but doesn't fully succeed. So Andrew won, but had Charly really had he not been so on the ball about swatting away her nonsense around but women also suffer and women aren't, the win would not, he would not have won. So that's something to take away from this. Make sure they don't reframe it in terms of women have it worse. And she was desperately trying to do that. I mean, desperately maybe is the wrong word, because her affect is really, I'm too bored for the sinful earth kind of thing.
Well, it's this. Well, I think there's like trying to send across this message of like, why are you making me expend energy to like obviously slap down your argument with these like overused, kind of tropey, cliche responses like, well,
Yeah.
women are the biggest victims of war. Well, women would suffer, also risk a lot as well, and shit like that, right? When everyone loses, women lose. So, women lose too, therefore it's worse than when only men lose.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one. I will get my document out here.
Crime and violence.
Crime and violence, 3 plays. Play 4, men as the default threat. And then play 5 is crime without context. Oh no, that's in hypocrisy. Play 6, responsibility without repair. Let's go for men as default threat, because I think that's got the big relevance to us. All right, so
All right,
just
here
fill
we
in
go.
the silence. Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Planes.
Low
Braced and ready.
I think they're Poland, very, very old.
It's not just that. Think about here in the United States. You're going to get a tank through Michigan in the wintertime? I don't think so. I don't think so. So the thing is
Wait. This is 31, 34?
Yeah.
Tank
31,
through Michigan.
34.
Okay, all right, let's go.
A lot of strength, regardless of technology, and even utilizing technology requires a lot of physical strength. Tanks require loading from shells, carrying tons of shells, carrying tons of equipment and ammunition, and not only that, you have to be more resistant to the elements, and men are more resistant to elements than women are. And so they have kind of everything going for them. They're the super soldier, and they were designed basically to be super soldiers, right? That's
I think
All right,
you might.
All
Let's
right,
go
so
to,
this is 3210. There's a little bit more to this.
Okay, sure, we can finish that if you wish.
All right.
Have an exaggerated idea of what the average starving Russian farm boy might look like.
I think.
Okay,
A lot of
no,
the
sir,
boys-
lady, sir, why am I saying sir? The average starving Russian farm boy is going to still be stronger than the average starving Russian farm girl. That's his point. All right, let's go to where Charly, because this is what's freaking weird. She insists that men don't have this physical strength differential, right? That they're not somehow physically stronger or more capable of doing these things. Maybe that's the issue. She's fine with recognizing that men are hulking morons who are physically strong, but not that they are capable of using that for any kind of benefit to women or society. But anyway, go back to 651 where she
So this is
laid-
actually before Andrew's
Yeah.
comment. So it's not
Yeah,
so
I know.
much.
Yeah, I know. It's like
All right.
But my
it's a little bit back and forth.
Like checkpoints, state mandated garments, state removing media, independent media, in order to have state messaging. I think of those types of things. And those were all the things that I saw during the lockdowns from the side of the leftist progressive and the feminist side. And they all seem to be in pretty good unison there. And it seems like all that did was limit choice. And so
Are we
I wonder
in- Maybe this is an incorrect time code. Are we in 651?
Now we're at 7-Eleven, but I started at like 6:40 something. So
Huh. This looks like Corel made a mistake. Okay, let me fix this. Let's go to crime without context. 30,
all right, 30,
46.
46.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I'll see if I can get Corel to fix that.
It's what the majority of warfare is now. Bombs, drones, guerrilla stuff.
War will always come down after you get past the technological barriers. So if you have a first world nation attacking a third world nation, sure, right? They're left with guerrilla warfare. We use massive amounts of technology to level major cities, things like this, and then send in an occupying force. They fight the occupying force with guerrilla warfare. That's true. But when it comes to first world nations, that's different. They have technology. They're going to blow the hell out of each other, right? But then when they blow up each other's technology, it still comes down to infantry-based combat. Why do you think they train people to be infantrymen? Because it still comes down to that. And there's lots of places you can't get technology. You can't always get technology in the deep, dark jungle or in the high deserts or in the snow-covered
That is true.
fields
Ukraine
and plains.
is,
All right, so
low
this
on-
looks like this is a little bit like the time codes here are not working properly. So why don't we skip to the third one, which is responsibility without repair.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
35, 40, male responsibility and self-control.
Yep. I'll try to get
Um,
Corel up.
Yep.
Coral.
If we needed to get them as buff as the average man.
Yeah, but you see the hole in that.
If we were desperate for it, we could start giving women tea, and they would get pretty jacked pretty quickly.
Yeah, do you see the issue there, though? That should be pretty obvious right away. Which is
Well, I mean,
that,
it would be forcing someone to take HRT.
no, that's not the issue. The issue is it's like, why wouldn't you just give it to the men? Because
Excessive
now
testosterone in men just turns into estrogen, which is why people looking to transition to, have more male secondary
Mm-hmm.
sex characteristics, they have to be careful about the dosage of testosterone they take.
Sure.
Otherwise, it loops around and turns back into estrogen.
Sure, but if it's the case you're looking for a strength differential, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most men are short on testosterone anyway, and you could give them TRT.
Why not give it to them all?
That's one, but two, for women, TRT and its effects and changes on your physical body would take years. It doesn't take weeks.
So okay? Ultimately, this provides a little bit of background, right? But what she's arguing is that men don't have useful strength, but later on she argues that men are threatening. Do you get what I'm saying? That they're physically threatening. So she recognizes that men are strong when it involves being presented as a physical threat, but she refuses to recognize that strength might be beneficial. We can go to 159.50.
All right, 159.50.
Yeah.
All right. This fucking thing is like 6
All over the place.
hours.
Yes. They're worse than us.
That's saying something.
159. Yeah.
All right. 159.50.
Yeah.
Opportunity and trying to not make judgments on someone on the basis of
But I
their
think it's
immutable
fine for people to make
characteristics.
judgments.
Of course, like if I'm walking down the street at night and I see a large group of rowdy 20-something men, I'm going to be like a little bit like anxious. I'm going to be like, well, they're rowdy young men. That could be potentially dangerous.
Is it?
Okay. All right.
If I
Stop.
do that with black.
Wait, he's gonna say, is
No,
it bad if I do that with black men?
I know. We'll get into that later.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to point that out. This is what she does. Men's strength can only be recognized when it's a threat to women in society. It cannot be recognized in terms of its benefit. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what's ridiculous about this. And of course, she would, even though she insists that men are dangerous and we should be able to discriminate against them because they're dangerous, she doesn't acknowledge that very dangerousness that she says she's afraid of is useful in war or might be useful in dealing with risky and difficult circumstances. So she can't allow men anything, even the necessary other side of the coin to what she does insist men are, which is dangerous and threatening. Like, it's incredibly hypocritical, let's say. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go to I'll test these time codes. I'm a little bit worried that these are not
Do
correct.
you not want to hear where he brings up where he because she's
this is a separate category. I do cover it. Like, it's in there. It's in the document.
all right. So when we get to her response, 128.11, no.
No, go to 3540.
3540, okay.
We need like trying to find the time.
No,
code.
it's not, come on, just it's fine. We got this. 3540.
Okay. Yeah.
What the hell? Sorry.
It's okay. I know it jumps around. It's really annoying.
Okay.
All right.
If we were desperate for it, we could start giving women tea, and they would get pretty jacked pretty quickly.
Yeah. Do you see the issue there, though? That should be pretty
He
obvious.
just said this.
Yeah, I know. This is very strange.
No. That's not the issue. The issue is, it's like, why wouldn't you just give it to the men?
No, this is the same sound.
No.
that's the
Let
same
it
time
play
code.
out. Let it play out. Let it play out.
All right, I'm gonna let it play out.
Because
Excessive
now you-
testosterone in men just turns into estrogen, which is why people looking to transition to have more male secondary sex characteristics, they have to be careful about the dosage of testosterone they take.
Sure.
Otherwise, it loops around and turns back into estrogen.
Sure, but if it's the case you're looking for a strength differential, right? Most men are short on testosterone anyway, and you could give them
And they're
TRT.
less likely
Why
to.
not give it to them all?
That's one. But two, for women, TRT and its effects and changes on your physical body would take years. It doesn't take weeks.
And it's not going to change the fact that women don't go through puberty with it. So, and why is she in, like, literally what she's saying is, let's give women the thing that gives men the natural advantage that I refuse to acknowledge in a positive sense, but definitely acknowledge in a negative sense. I mean, this is just absurdity at this point.
Yeah, I mean, she just thinks that, like, a lot of these people, they just think that human beings, you can just like alter our chemistry and it's fine. Like, you can just make women more like men and make men more like women, and there's no, like, it's all just very interchangeable. It's like this, like let's say the end point of the blank slate idea. That's why she's casually saying, well, just put women on testosterone and they'll be strong like men. Like, just put points in strength, like she plays video games, right? Just dump everything in strength and you'll be fine, even if you made a buddy type B character. And it just doesn't work that way. Like,
exactly.
There are limits. Like, we have a nature, we have a biology, and I think that, and I don't know if that's just her trying to like find a way out of of this corner that she's in, but yeah, it's a problem. So, all right, where should I go next?
Why don't we just finish that one off to see where it takes us? So,
right.
128.11.
Wait, finish this one off or go back?
No,
to
not finish that. No, go back to 128.11.
All right, 36, 33. There's only a few more seconds. Okay.
Years for your muscles
I
to start to increase.
I know quite a bit about this. It
Go ahead.
doesn't.
It does.
It doesn't.
It definitely does.
I have very personal experience with this. It doesn't.
You became 50% stronger using TRT. You became equivalent in strength to the average man using TRT.
No, there's no.
I mean, my muscles
Okay,
immediately grew.
Okay.
So she took TRT for a while, I guess. Doesn't look like a man though.
128.11. Let's go to 128.11.
All right, 128.11 is where we were.
No, so 1 hour in 28 minutes 11 seconds.
Yeah, I know.
That's where we were. Okay, I don't know what's going on with these time codes.
Yeah.
Terrorist threat in the sense that there are
liberals. It has. I wish that we could label feminists as a domestic terrorist organization.
Well, they were.
Yeah.
Oh,
the Weather
boy,
Underground. Anybody?
Well, and also the original suffragettes and their activities. They're actually, I think one of their activities, bombing mailboxes, like putting bombs in mailboxes, actually led to, I think, a death and somebody losing their eye. So they were actually domestic terrorists, and during a time of war too, which generally meant if they had been men, they would have been taken out at dawn and shot. But because they were women, they got away with it. Patriarchy. Okay. Let's
Yep.
keep going on this time code.
All right.
Would you deny that there have not been, mass shooters motivated by
Do you deny that
incel
trans ideology has motivated mass shooters? Do we label them as being domestic terrorists?
No, I think,
No.
no.
We don't.
But that's different. That's like an identity rather than a problem to be solved. I think that.
Wait,
Oh, what?
Men are a problem to be solved, I guess.
And when men commit mass shootings, it's not because of identity like trans people. It's because of them being a problem that they need to be solved. Okay, I think she's briefly switched her anus for her mouth there. We're just listening to brain farts. But yeah, let's finish this one off. Let's see what Andrew said.
Let me see what's left in it. So 129.08. There's like another, yeah.
To be solved, or else they wouldn't become trans to begin with. They have a problem and they're trying to solve it. It's not just a matter of identity.
Well,
it's a
yeah,
matter
but
of
with,
problem
like,
solution.
Medication and surgery and whatnot. Whereas like involuntary celibates, I just feel like
Involuntary celibates also, if it's a problem to be solved, they get buff and fuck a chick, and it's same shit, right? You have a problem, you're solving it. They're just like the trans are having a problem, they're solving it. That's, from your view, isn't that the same thing?
then why are all the men on the internet complaining that they are loveless and can't find women in
So
their
are
soul?
women.
Okay.
And
They
they're
just-
Okay, wait. God, she's like she's a digression machine. She's like, incels. And then she doesn't even explain how that logic makes any sense. And then she digresses again. Oh, men are lonely on the internet. Okay. This individual, I mean, everybody's like, oh, she doesn't know how to debate. This individual doesn't know how to think. Like, she was failed in kindergarten.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, no, she's college educated or something. But I mean, that should be obvious, right?
Yeah, and
All
that
right.
should be nothing, really. Okay, so we've just
129.19,
finished
I think
responsibility.
we're past the time code there. So.
Yeah, I'm going to get you another set of time codes, and hopefully
All
these
right.
ones aren't
Just look
bomb.
and see if I missed any super chows.
No. Yeah, take a look at that. Okay, so Charly focuses on male moral failure and toxicity. Men are framed as problem without compensating recognition of contribution or vulnerability. Andrew stresses male duty and sin, still keeps men under an external standard with little acknowledgement of harm to them. Okay, admittedly, this seems like it was all very digression-y and difficult to pull anything meaningful out. So it might just be a situation where Andrew was directly responding to her strange digressions. Okay, winner. This is what Perplexity says. Charly, her emphasis on men is morally at fault, plus lack of interest in male costs, advance a threat narrative with no space for uniquely positive masculinity. Andrew's external standard frame is present, but subordinate here. So, and it might just be because this was an absolute salad of a debate. But this is what Perplexity saw, so take it for what you will.
It's simply like recognizing that a standard exists on men the same as holding them to that standard. Like
No.
if I said the reality is this is like how things are, if I describe it as an is and not an ought, I'm not promoting the is. I'm saying it exists. That's what Andrew's doing here. He's not saying this is how it should be. He's saying this is how it is. Do you
He's
see what
not
I'm
saying
saying?
that men should be.
So I think the AI
held to
is
the standard.
misdiagnosing. He's misrepresenting Andrew's position.
Okay,
I know
that's
that you guys
entirely
don't like
possible.
this, but I'm listening to this, and he's not saying men should go and die for people who don't like them. He is saying the reality is this, and he's just stating it, right? And he's
I
saying
think
this
that-
is why women are privileged. That's what this whole thing is about, right? So I mean, look, maybe the AI thinks that Charly wants fine, but I think that I don't think Andrew is making any prescriptive statements. He's just being descriptive.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It could be a situation where he's being descriptive, but it could also be a situation that this particular part of the argument really didn't lend itself to pointing things out, like where these criminals are coming from, why they're motivated to doing what they're doing, the rate at which women engage in similar levels of crime, that kind of stuff. So I don't know if I'm going to hold it to this, because I feel like this became spaghetti in the middle. So let's go to the next one.
All right, when's the next one?
Body count real book. Do you guys want to go through body count rule book? Like, I'm not too inclined towards it, but you know what? Let's do it. 127.43.
43.
Yep.
God, this thing bounces all over the place, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's trying to pull out in a very long stream, a set of arguments that are concise.
No, I know, but I mean, like,
I'm
their
not blaming Andrew for this.
Their conversation goes everywhere.
I'm not blaming Andrew for this, but it feels like they sort of rotate in and out of like a orbital window, and occasionally, you get a direct shot and something relates to other, it's just, I'm not sure the whatever podcast is really the best format for getting stuff done, but they are very big. So what they're doing seems to be working for at least getting people thinking. Okay, let's.
Well, it's successful, so
yeah,
can't really hate on that. All right. Oh boy, it's like frozen. Hold on, let me refresh it.
Sure.
Give me a second.
Let's see what's going on with this one.
Terry celibates. I just feel like.
All right, 140, 127.43.
Let me double check.
Right.
127.43.
Yeah, it's 127.43. I got it. Okay, we're just gonna fast forward a little bit. 23.33. We'll just go
of STIs everywhere. The STI rate increases, right? The fact of the matter is that you have women who have been, screwed by 20 or 30 men, and men who have screwed 20 or 30 women. That doesn't seem like it's very good for the moral fabric of your society, or for your society at all. And so it's like, if we can get rid of the thing you want, which is the unwanted pregnancy, and it seems like the unwanted pregnancies decrease when you get rid of abortion anyway. Sounds like
interesting.
It's like a big winner here.
So we have like
Yeah.
That's not the whole thing.
We could finish that off.
127.43. Yeah, basically the problems with, like, the time codes are a little off, like they're later than the actual thing starts. But yeah.
Well, let's hear what Charly has to say to that.
All right.
Entire incel movement that I think has been labeled a domestic terrorist threat, in the sense that
by fucking liberals. It has. I wish that we could label feminist as a domestic terrorist.
Okay, so this is where the feminist is domestic.
So
terrorist.
she basically tries to say, well, this authority over here said that incels are a domestic terrorist threat. That's her argument. I heard from organization that men who are virgins are a danger to society. And Andrew counters with, well, I wish they had done that for feminists. But of course, organization wouldn't do that for feminists. They completely support feminism.
Yeah, I actually
even when they are being terrorists. So
I actually had an extended discussion with Perplexity today about that. And of course, as you guys know, maybe you don't know, AI has a left bias. And Grok, when I was discussing this with Grok, its left bias, it revealed that AI is trained by handlers, I guess you could say, and those handlers punish AI when it gives responses that aren't consistent with sociology's and feminist narrative, basically. So when you're working with an AI, there's always this crust of feminist informed thinking that you have to push through and jailbreak it out of. And usually you have to do that by focusing on what is the percentage likelihood of this? Keep to empirically sound sources. Don't look at people's feels and stuff like that. Every AI sort of has its own little particular sequence that you have to go through to jailbreak it. But anyway, after I did that with Perplexity, it admitted that there is no actual science that supports feminist premises. So all the UN and institutional narrative that is promoting the manosphere as some kind of evil, that's just an ideology defending itself, an authoritarian ideology defending itself with no actual validity. That's all it is. So, of course, it's not going to declare itself a bunch of terrorists, because to do so would be to destroy its own credibility. And that's what's happening. The femosphere is protecting itself. The femosphere has no legitimacy, no academic legitimacy, no logical legitimacy. What it talks about does not relate to any reality than the one that it's constructed. And yet it is forcing that reality on everyone else and calling any kind of dissent evil, like basically the work of Satanism or witchcraft, and trying to persecute people by simply consenting from their rubric, which itself has no validity. So it's like, yes, they should be declared some variation of bad, probably not terrorists, more like cultural authoritarians, and they should be removed from positions of power. In particular, they should be removed from every position that allows them to opine on men's identities and men's worth, and men and boys' identities and worth. They should be removed. And the fact is that men have, I even asked Perplexity, all right, are men as angry as they should be? You know what Perplexity said? No. Their anger is not proportionate to the amount of injustice that is being created by these feminist institutions. Like, isn't that astounding? Of course, it was after I jailbreak the damn thing. And I always repeatedly ask, keep it neutral. Don't flatter me. Don't say things just because you think I'll agree with them. I have to periodically do that. That's what other people fail to do. And they get these weird hallucinations. You have to nail on, don't flatter. Don't agree and amplify. Don't create weird sources because you think I'm going to like what you're going to say. Keep it neutral. And it said no. Men are not as angry. They are not proportionately angry as to proportion to the injustice that they're facing here. The unjustifiable injustice of the femisphere. So all of this hysteria around the manosphere is basically Darth Vader squeezing his paranoid control freakery, squeezing all the planets, and Princess Leia saying that the harder you grip, the more slip through your grasp. That's what they're doing. They are the evil fempire. Okay. Anyway, but that's never going to happen. Or maybe it won't. I mean, maybe it will. Maybe at some point people will look back at this and realize, wow, we found a completely new form of authoritarianism. Let's not do that again. We can hope. Well, you know what? That won't happen unless places like this continue to operate and continue to point it out. And since I'm on the topic, you can support us at feedthebadger.com/support. That was a terrible segue. I am sorry. Please don't judge me for it. Maybe judge me a little, but don't. But
I think your reaction to the plug is worse than the plug itself.
Okay. All right. Feedthebadger.com/support, everyone.
Just let it lie.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So the next point's really close to this one, so I'm just going to let this flow into the next point, okay?
Okay.
Would you deny that there have not been, mass shooters motivated by
Do you deny that trans ideology has motivated mass shooters? Do we label them as being domestic terrorists?
No.
Okay, we already covered this.
To be fair, though, there is an entire trans cult of mass shooters. They're called the Zizians, and they call themselves rationalists, radical, extreme rationalists that have rationally decided to change their gender.
Okay, I'm gonna deviate from this, and I'm gonna say Andrew wins because he keeps it to the threat of these other groups and logic. Okay, if you're going to say that incel, like men who are lonely are a source of potential terrorists, what about trans people, right, in that situation. And that's pretty good because he's reframing it in terms of the potential threat, bad intent of the precious, the vulnerability groups that become so important in this feminist narrative where everybody is judged by their need and not their capability. So that's good. I would say that's good, but I think we should move to the next one.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing that he's doing, and again, this is just a debate tactic, is by saying, well, then does that mean we should do something about trans people? She's throwing the intersectional, like, spaghetti in her face and saying, well, if you're going to do this to men, what if I told you most of the people that you're talking about, or a significant number of them, are trans people, and not, so they're in your vocabulary, they're not men, they're trans people. What do you say to that? And she's like, oh, whoa, I'm not transphobic, so I have to not address that, so let me try to pivot to something else. So it's like making her face her bigotry, right? This is why earlier there was another point where she talked about how if I see a group of young men, and they're like kind of boisterous, I get really nervous. And he's like, well, what if they're black guys? And then she's like, no, wait. So like, this is what you do. This is how you throw them off, because they're operating in a system that isn't principled. It's based in identity, like hierarchy, right? So when they make an assertion, they can demonize men all day long because women hold a higher position morally in their minds. But then they break it down into like race and sexual orientation and gender identity and stuff like that. And then they create a hierarchy, and it puts like, straight white guys at the very bottom, and all the other men like just above that. And then you get onto the other identities, right? So when they're saying, well, I think there's a problem with men, you can just be like, well, those men are black. And then like, oh no, or those men are trans, or those men are gay, or whatever, right? Those men are Muslims, those men are disabled. And so like with the incel thing, I would have thrown that too. I would have said, well, there's a disproportionate number of incels that are either physically or mentally disabled, which is why they're lonely, because women don't want them. So are those guys like dangerous, evil bastards that we need to, like, I don't know, euthanize? Like, that's how you basically make them play by their rules. You hold them to their standards. So
yeah, and it's also making them really uncomfortable, which is something I always like to do, because you force them to acknowledge if the resemblance or the logical parallel between their vulnerability groups and men. Right. Yes. And that I like that, because men being vulnerable is like that is the thing that really bothers women like this. The idea of men's vulnerability and anybody caring about it really, really bothers them. That's why they go hysterical over attacking me as a pick-me. Okay. Let's move to play 10, because I think although the other time codes are good, I think we should probably pivot back to this. So male vulnerability 3 plays, play 10, invisible draft anxiety. I know we're pivoting back to the draft, but I'm a little bit nervous about the previous time codes. And I think that we should go there just to get things. All right,
5416.
Yep.
I would use my power as a woman.
Yeah, that's great, but it's not even contending with what I'm saying. That's like not even contending with what I'm saying. Even if that's the case, that's nice that you say that, right? But our global leaders are never going to get rid of the draft, because their military advisors tell them not to, because it's a huge weapon for mobilization of military force if you need it. So we're never going to get rid of it. That's just a fucking pipe dream. It's never going to happen, ever.
So remove women's ability to vote, and then we'll never go to war. Is that your thinking?
No, I'm saying that this injustice and unfairness. And by the way, like when you bring up, you say,
all right, I'm pausing it there. That's the end of that.
No, keep going, because it's a little bit late.
Well, what about 60-year-olds? They can't be drafted. Okay, but they could have been when they were in their 20s and signed up for the draft, which you didn't have to. So their potential was already there and exhausted. They already had to go through that stage of life where their number could be called and yours couldn't. So yeah, they still get the benefit. They still did the thing that you guys will never fucking do. They still did it. And so the thing is like it just stands like this to reason, right? It doesn't matter if the 18-year-old never gets called to a draft. The potential is only there that he will, and you can't get mad at
Okay,
him
we got to
later
stop for a
because he
bit.
still maintains voting.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
still, we got to stop here simply because of the copyright issue. But yes, this is a repetition, but he's coming to some place that I want to get to. So
All right.
let's let him go.
Rights or certain rights that you don't get because he still went through the process of signing up for the draft and had the potential to be called, and you never did. So it's like,
Does that echo
why do you
you,
get anything
Brian, or is
extra?
it that?
Oh, I don't. Sorry, my microphone is picking up extra. There was like a toddler upstairs. I think it did something. Let me see.
Okay, yeah.
You don't get extra, in fact. Why
That's
do you
better.
get anything on par with that when the social status is such that men can be called to defend you and die, and that's never a service you have to render on their behalf?
You know, I have multiple male family members who went to war. My grandfather, who
What?
was drafted, and I have
Just anecdotes.
Well, not just anecdotes. Like, where is she going with this? He's basically
I don't know.
saying
We'll see.
this is a cost that men bear
She
as a
might
part of
say
society.
something like, "Well, they went to war and they're fine now." So
Okay, let's hear. Let's figure it out.
All right.
Let's find out.
never had them express to me. It makes me so mad that you, as a woman, get to vote because I was drafted and went to war.
They've never told me that they don't think it's unfair. So therefore, it's not. Why are you
Yeah,
complaining?
well, they shouldn't have to tell you it's unfair for you to understand logically that it's unfair, lady. Like,
At
what
least
kind of argument is this?
acknowledge what the sacrifice, like what they're doing.
Yeah, they're not only are they sacrificing for your ass, they don't even want you to feel bad about it. Patriarchy. And no doubt she believes that men, and that includes her male relatives, have constructed a society for their own benefit at her expense, simultaneously with her not recognizing that they aren't even making her feel guilty about the sacrifices they have done for her. Like, this is maybe it wasn't her teachers that failed her, but somebody in her life never gave her an understanding of consequence, which has led to her very weak conception of logic and reason and ability to step into other people's shoes. All right, let's finish this off. Let's see what else she says. Astoundingly.
never encountered this attitude from anyone that went to combat.
Yeah, but
Like
do you?
that was deployed. Like I have
I can't freaking believe it. She's basically shaming him for not being a soldier. Right? Do you see
Yeah.
what she's doing? She's shaming him. She's shaming his identity as a man and saying, you can't speak to this, even though you are also subject to the same risks. Right? And what he's talking about is not voluntary service, it's involuntary service, which these men, aside from maybe her grandfather, haven't done. Right? And she's demanding that men who care about her actually treat her in the way that Andrew does. They're not going to do that, dear. Like, they're not going to sit there and say, no, you need to understand as a woman how much you need to be grateful for. Men don't do that generally. Okay, that's rare. And she's demanding that before she extends herself to understand. You don't need them to tell you that, lady. Why don't you actually think this through and actually recognize it about your male relatives who went to war? You see what I'm saying? She's basically saying, well, they didn't tell me, so I'm going to shame you as a person who's never, or a man who's never went to war, and you don't have the right to speak for men who went to war. Well, do you? And does the fact that the men who went to war, who suffered all of this in order to protect people like you, and the fact that they're not actually telling you about that, does that justify you continuing to live in ignorance over the obvious logical facts that Andrew is presenting? Like, she's using, not only did these guys serve. In other words, they put themselves in a position, presumably, unless they were desk jockeys, put themselves in a position of taking on discomfort and risk in order to protect other people. She's insisting that their silence over it and maybe not wanting to even deal with it or talk about it, and their lack of willingness to expect her to be grateful or understand their position is evidence that their position doesn't exist at all. Like, there's evidence that the sacrifice doesn't exist at all, folks. We can all pack it in. Charly's figured it out, right? She's never had a man in her family tell her what's what. So what's what is obviously not what Andrew's saying. Okay, shall we let her finish or move on to the next one?
Let's see. 5608.
I think we've done Charly on the likelihood of the draft. Andrew frames war and draft in terms of justice, duty, and structural unfairness. Charly frames war. You know what? I think that's the end of it. That's the end of it. Yeah. Okay, let's see what Perplexity had to say.
All right.
Winner, Andrew. He secures clear recognition of male vulnerability tied to unique male obligation. Charly's minimization attempt fails to erase it for the audience. Why don't we let her play out? Let's see how well her minimization attempt goes.
All right.
This I had never heard that before.
Yeah, but do you understand that maybe?
And the rage
I think you do
is against the politicians.
Well, I think you do understand, though, that that many times injustices are perpetuated on people, and they don't even know that they're being perpetuated on them. Perhaps most injustice is that way.
But
so just because a person tells you or has never told you that they felt that there was a weight of injustice in a thing which was happening, may never have been explained to them, or they may never have even thought about it before, like most people don't think.
Or maybe they don't want to sit her, or they don't want to sit her down and say, actually, this is an injustice and you are benefiting from it, right? And we would like some, like it's not important to them, or they don't want to trouble her, more likely, or they just want to just do it and then get it over with and not refer to it. And also they could not be aware that this is an injustice because they feel like they've earned their worth as a man through going through it, right? That's how you hide injustice, in expectation, right? Okay, well, let's see what she witters out.
Responsible for this injustice. It is the lawmakers and politicians that put the draft in place.
Well,
women are not
my
responsible.
opinion on this is that it doesn't really matter.
Okay, but here's the problem. The injustice exists because of the asymmetry in treatment that women benefit from. All right. Okay, maybe the injustice has to persist because men just have a higher risk tolerance. They have a higher tolerance for discomfort. You know, they're more willing to put themselves in this harm's way, right? Maybe that is something that has to be. But what doesn't have to be is you continuing to insist that society benefits men over women, and us continuing to labor under this lie about society. Maybe that doesn't have to continue. Maybe you could let that inform your worldview. The reality that men have to go to war and you don't. Let that inform your worldview over who is expected to bear the costs of a peaceful society. That I would be relatively okay with that. I don't know if men would be okay with that, but at the very least, can you let that inform your worldview and stop saying that men construct a society for their own benefit at the expense of women? Can we do that at least? Can this be a data point? Okay.
All right. You want me
Data
to
point
do more of
lives
this?
matter. Sure. Nah, you know what? Let me just double check here. Let me see if there's one worth going to.
All right.
All right. Let us just do. I know you've been chomping at the bit, and I know everybody's probably thinking of this one as the best part. Okay, play 13, sudden death round, hypocrisy.
13 minutes?
No, play 13.
Oh.
Is that 2?
Sudden death round, hypocrisy. Will she back her principles?
With her sister's safety. 2:16:22.
Oh, 2:16:22.
Yes, Andrew brings up interracial violent crime statistics and asks Charly whether or not she'd tell her sister to cross the street to avoid a statistically higher risk group. Then pushes her again after she refuses to say yes. And again, this is after she said that a group of young men she would be concerned about. But, you know,
Mhm.
it
All right.
depends on their chromatic qualities, shall we say. Okay, go for it.
Violent incidents per capita of offending race. And this is from a Bureau of Justice Statistics National Crime Victimization Survey from 2018. So white on black there, 30, Hispanic on black 76. Well, I'll just do, okay, so white on black 30, black on white 1,288 versus 30 for white on black.
Well, gee, Chuck, it seems like, based on what you just said earlier, if I could demonstrate this to you, you said that you would advise your little sister to cross the street. Do you hold to that?
Pausing
Oh,
for
I
the
want to see her
copyright.
face. I want to see her face.
He per
Okay.
capita the stream. It's been per capita. Okay.
Hey, per capita lives matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what she says.
By the way, this is incidents per 100,000 offender population.
Do you hold to it, Chuck? Do you hold to it? Are you going to advise your sister to cross the street now?
Oh, so he's just in the hard
No,
liquor.
'cause I think it's
like-
white boys that are getting beat up.
I think it's white boys that are getting beat up. So suddenly her sister is safe, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So it's white boys who's getting beat up. No, that includes women, dude. All right.
But
Okay.
interestingly enough, though, there is an acknowledgement that men are more vulnerable or more likely to be victims of violent crime than women.
Good Lord. She just pivoted. You're right. She just pivoted to men are more likely to be victims of violent crime. So this is her evasion, guys. Black men are responsible for a disproportionate amount of crime, but her evasion is, but it's men who are disproportionately victims of black men's crimes. Herp. Like now we're starting to see recognition of men's issues, but only to deflect from recognizing the asymmetrical criminal behavior of certain races. Okay. We're definitely seeing a picture here. This is painting a picture of something. Shall we continue?
Yes.
Can you pull up the interracial SA statistics, please?
Sure,
Well,
give me
again-
a
Oh,
give me a
good
moment to
Lord.
find it.
It's just going to
Yeah,
get worse.
yes.
Go here, Charlie.
Well,
I'm
what
telling
saying
you,
is
it's
that
just going to
half
get worse.
The population is male, half the population is female. The encounters between, and then 13.3% of the population is black.
Yeah, and even less of that is male. It's only about 6% that's male.
Yeah. And so, but again, the justice system,
Remember that word we were looking for, per capita.
yeah. The justice
Yeah,
system.
boy, she's really okay. All right, so there's lots of weird stuff going on, but I do like how she's acting like a freaking toddler. Like, you know how toddlers are, yeah, I didn't eat the cookie.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't my hand in the cookie jar. Like, this is her demeanor is it's a kindergarten adjacent. But yeah, like there's lots of stuff going on here. And yes, the sexual violence stats from the FBI are not going to be fun for her. I can already tell you guys that. Of course, even less fun would be the statistics that I bring up about the rate of sexual violence that women engage in against men. I think that would probably just cause a blue screen of death for her.
Yeah.
Like she just wouldn't be
Well,
able
she'll
to.
just deny it because it's not the
Yeah.
official statistic that
Oh,
she
those are
likes.
official.
Yeah,
of course,
okay.
not the statistics that she likes, but honestly, I've done the math The National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey put on by the CDC found 3 years in a row, 2010, 2011, 2012, parity in victimization between men and women in the last year numbers, right? So that is the last year. It keeps a window of 1 year to talk about victimization, which reduces memory recall errors in men, right? That's really critical. When you include made to penetrate, which is what feminists wanted them to name men being raped by women, you get parity between victimization between the two groups. There's almost no way that result, repeated 3 years in a row, exists in a world where there isn't parity in sexual violence perpetration between men and women. So those are official stats. That is the state of the art for those stats. Like that is higher powered than anything before or after. So we've laid this to rest. Women are raping at approximately the same rates as men. When you look at community surveys that are anonymous. And so when you're looking at the actual behavior of people in the greater world, not just who we send to jail, but who is doing what. And I'm pretty sure if I brought that up, I don't know. I think we would have a good 30 seconds of complete silence. And then I wonder what she would pivot to.
Yeah.
Well, what were they wearing? I don't know. Okay, I want to see this because this is a good one too. I want to see her reaction. Yeah.
Punish Black people more. Black people are
Yeah,
convicted more
they
for the same
punish
crimes
men
than white
more
people.
Did it
too.
ever occur to you it's because they commit more crimes?
Well, if you look at comparisons to actual crimes committed versus conviction rates, it's committing crimes at about the same rate, but Black people are more likely to be sentenced.
No. This is total bullshit. She is full of shit. There is a slight bias towards convicting Black men, but the bias towards convicting men versus women is like 6 times higher. All right, so it's the injustice that men face in the justice system is substantially higher than any racial category. Of course, we know that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sign off on what he's saying. Well, no, I am, because Black people do commit more crime, and a lot of that is because they are father malnourished.
Yeah.
Like they have the government decided to outcompete Black fathers, and they're not in their families. And what happens? Single mothers are primarily responsible for producing criminals. Well, what do you think's going to happen? Right? And this is the conversation that
Exactly.
a lot of people
Like
don't want to have.
yeah, I think I'm okay with saying they commit more crimes and they're more likely to be, repeat offenders and everything else, but I will also say that it's a product of their upbringing, which comes from the single mother home, because this wasn't a thing that was going on like in the like when the father was in the home before the Lyndon Johnson's Great Society Project. So
Yeah, right. So okay, but let's continue because I keep interrupting and we haven't gotten to it yet.
They're on their 3rd time doing a crime. That's why. And that's never adjusted for in the data.
Do you have proof?
Yes, we can pull it up. Yeah, name whatever study you want right now, and I'll pull up the methodology, and I can guarantee you that if we look on the offenses by offense list, is it, oh, this white dude, he went in and he stole a car, and he got 1 year, okay? And this Black guy got 10 years. That's not fair. And you know what's often left out? That's his 15th crime. And that's why he got the higher sentence. That's what I've noticed when I look at that data. But the thing, I'm willing to look at whatever data you got. I'm happy to parse it out.
Well, I didn't prepare for this.
I know, I understand. Because
I did not prepare. I
want to get to the sexual assault statistics, please. Where are they? Sir, I'm in the desert. I need a glass of water. I'm beset by a leopard. Okay. How much further? Yeah.
Feminist.
I'd have to look it up.
But this is part of that debate because it's showing a worldview inconsistency that you have, which is that men are mean, bad, evil patriarchy. You would advise your sister to cross the street, right, in order to avoid them.
Men are evil, mean, bad.
Okay, you're right.
I'm
That was a
looking at-
straw man, so let me be more charitable.
Okay.
You would tell your sister to cross the street when it came to a group of rowdy young men, right? And you say that you would advise her to do that even if she personally didn't have any bad experiences with rowdy young men, just based on experiences you've had and data and various things you've observed. And yet, if somebody does that and says to their little sister, hey, stay away from young black men, right, based on the same exact criteria, that's somehow fucking racist. That's what's crazy to me, is like, just can we get some consistency?
Okay, let's hear what she has to say. I'm curious. How is she going to pivot? How is she going to digress? How is she going to invert reality? What is she going to do? Let us find out.
Pull up the essay rates. And again, I would think that violent offenses.
When you see this, Charlie, when you see this.
But again, we also discussed that the justice system is more likely to convict
It's not,
black
look,
men as saying white women than they are to convict.
You know
black
what? I'm
men
even
as
willing to
saying
give it
black
like,
women.
I'm even willing to give it some absurdly high number. Like they're wrong about 5%.
Okay.
And it wouldn't even come close to compensating for the distinction.
Yes, it isn't like this is a complete red herring. But she says, like, it is really interesting that she really wants this to be true about men, but not true about black men. That is really interesting. And she's having trouble squaring that circle in her mind. It remains a circle. It resists being squared. Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
I mean, do you personally
shut up and let him set up the crickets?
It's not a fear of black people. It's an understanding. And by the way, do you know who taught me this? Black men. They were the ones who taught me this. Because you know who's the least likely to walk around a group of young black men they don't know? Black men. That's the wild.
Yeah, yes, that's the truth. That's the thing nobody wants to, like, what they're afraid to say, that they're aware of their surroundings if they're not black because they don't want to be called racist. But it's like, it's the people who are closest to the problem that are going to be the most honest about that problem. I used to live in Humboldt Park, west side of Chicago. And I'll tell you that, like, if I saw a group of young black or Latino guys, I might just keep my eye on them. That's all I'm saying. Like, I would keep my wits about me, keep my head on a swivel, never relax. That's not racist. That's just reality. So anyway.
I think depending on the area, yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
true.
it highly depends on the area.
Yeah.
Again, like if you are walking through an area that has like a lot of
Did you by
gang
chance find them stats?
Still
Not yet.
looking for it.
Someone will send it to you on X. But yeah, it's bad, Charlie. It's bad. So like the interracial distinction is not even in the same universe, and neither is the violent crime assault rates. And if we go down by women, it's even worse. It's just every time you go to the next criteria, it just will get worse for your argument. I promise.
Yeah, it's true.
Just bite the bullet.
But the thing is that I'm getting a little bit annoyed. Can we see the stats? I mean, does he actually get to the point where he shows the stats? I'm curious. This is giving me a curiosity. I'm going to give you a question here, Brian. Are we at 2 hours, 23 minutes in and 12 seconds?
2 hours, 21 minutes.
Oh, okay. So we're almost there. Maybe go to there. 2
Jump
hours.
ahead to 2 hours and what?
23 minutes and 12 seconds. Let's see if we finally get to the thing that has been promised for a while now. Okay.
So Asians are consistently low, then wouldn't that put like black men at consistently high?
I would be curious.
Go back a
about
little
that,
bit.
because if we look.
Well,
Go back
what?
about 30 seconds. Go back about 30 seconds. Because I think that we went a little bit too far.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Shush you. Shush.
To agree with that. But that would obviously have a logical entailment that black men commit the most amount, right? That would be the entailment there. So like if we're saying that it's the rates are consistent, so Asians are consistently low, then wouldn't that put like black men at consistently high?
I would be curious about that, because if we look at like Korea and Japan, where SA is kind of like so severe to the point that like women in Japan have their own like train carts, I would be curious.
But it's not. It's overblown.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm guessing that in Korea or like Japan, which is what she's specifically referencing, it's probably a lot lower. But when there are incidences, there's an overreaction from the public because it's, like it's such a high trust society that when there are incidences that break trust, everyone loses their minds and they overreact and they overcorrect. Well, I don't know if it's an overcorrection. I mean, like, but I'm just saying, like, measuring the reaction of a culture to something and then using your own standards and saying, well, wow, like they must have it really bad but like in the Congo, they don't have separate like train cars, but that's like the rape capital of the world,
Yeah,
So, like that doesn't,
it's like somebody, I think the one in Japan said, there's a problem and then we institute a solution, and then the West says, oh my God, look at how big the problem is.
Yes, exactly.
It's
That's
like,
what I'm
no,
saying.
we created a solution to it. Now, I'm guessing that they probably don't recognize the rate of sexual assault of men in South Korea or Japan. We're probably better at that than there. But
No, yeah, they
he's
probably don't
he's
even
not
have data
talking
on
about-
it. That's
she's not-
that's another thing too, right?
Yeah, she's not talking about this isn't about sexual assault. This is actually about, well, it is. It's about groping in trains, right? Okay, let's keep going because I'm finding the numbers, but it's taking a while.
Okay.
If that has to do, again, with people feeling pressure to conceal these sorts of things, being less
No, it's
likely
because
to loyalty to
because those cultures
family.
are fucking perverted as shit because they're godless. And that's one thing that people forget about is like it's like how Japan has
They're
all the
not-
laws where they have the fucking young girls walking around in the mini skirts at all of the schools, and the principals, they're always for it, right? They sell women's underwear out of vending machines. They have massive porn shops where you start on the bottom floor, and as you continue to ascend, it goes to worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and more hardcore porn. It's a very perverted society.
Well, I lived in Nevada.
Okay, all right. Here are the numbers. Korea, South Korea, around 4 to 13 per 100,000 in some data sets. That is rates, like reported rates, no doubt. Japan, about 1 to 2 per 100,000.
Yeah.
United States, 27 to 28 per 100,000. All right. So everybody here is talking about something that doesn't exist. South Korea is higher than Japan, probably because South Korea, I think, is more mixed or more diverse, maybe. And the U.S. is really is twice as high as Korea, 10 times higher than Japan. All right. So no, the fact that the finding that Asian men engage in sexual violence less is entirely consistent with the cultures that they come from. She's wrong. Okay. The other thing is that the group of people who engages in the greatest amount of sexual violence, since we are not seeing the stats yet, I'll just say them, is Native Americans. They are absolutely disproportionately represented in the rape statistics. And mostly they are actually engaging in sexual assault of probably other Native Americans. Right? And he's right. She's not going to like that if we ever get to it, which I don't know. Are we? Let's keep going.
Well, these things can take some time. I got a Rumble rant from NovaFan21. for $1,
Sure.
and he says, Charly is confident about Japan having a high sexual assault rate. Japanese women who falsely accuse Japanese men to extort them. Do we tell her? Thank you. All right. Let us continue.
So this feels a little.
Nevada's not as perverted as Japan.
Reno, there was porn shops everywhere. It's been cleaned up now.
I lived in Reno too, and no,
It's
there
been
wasn't.
cleaned up
Okay,
now.
this is.
I
Wait,
was there 20 years.
okay, this is weeds. Sorry.
All right.
to
Should I find
everybody
another
involved.
time code?
I'm gonna. You know what? I'm just gonna go into my screed about the
Go ahead.
FBI statistics. This is the issue with feminists, right? They want to use conviction rates to show the percentage of men that engage in sexual crime relative to women. The conviction rates are who we choose to put in jail. They don't want us to actually look at the racial composition of the men who are going to jail for sexual assault, because it is damning for their intersectional analysis, let me tell you. All right? And they also want to use the community surveys that find parity in sexual assault of men and women for prevalence, but they do not want to use them for the ratio of who is doing the assaulting. Because if you look at community surveys, the most powered and the most accurate community surveys, which are the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Surveys, specifically the 3 surveys that they did in 3 years in a row with the same methodology. That is the gold standard. That is the best evidence we have. There is parity. Men and women rape each other at about the same rate. They don't want to use that, but they want to use the prevalence because it shows a vastly greater problem of sexual assault. Like the conviction rates, like if you base it on the conviction rate, there is like, if you are a white woman, you're never going to get sexually assaulted. Like you might as well worry about being hit by lightning. Right? It is minuscule. Like, I mean, you can get sexually assaulted, but it's such a small amount yearly, right? It's not worth worrying about at all, according to conviction rates, especially if you avoid, I'm really going to get it, Native American men. Like, I don't know why that is. But anyway, so it's like, it's perishingly small. But they don't like that because that doesn't indicate that rape is a problem and patriarchy, our patriarchal society is using it everywhere to solve all of its problems, right? Just slap a little rape on that leaky pipe. That'll do it. Like, so that doesn't show. So they go with the community surveys, but the problem with the community surveys is, again, that pesky parity thing. So all of this is just, she doesn't want to engage fairly with the actual data. And she is part of an ideology that has this problem and has had this problem since the very start. They don't want to engage honestly with expectations of academic rigor. They don't want to engage honestly with even the own data that they're producing. And yet they want to maintain credibility and moral authority over the rest of us. And they are full of shit. And there you go, guys. That's this argument. Then I think it got into the weeds, but that's what I would have brought up with it. Like, what poison do you want to take, Charly? Do you want to take the poison of, we can't look at conviction stats because they undercount or they overcount those groups of people that we prefer to convict for rape? Okay, well, then we're looking at community stats. What do we see there? Parity and victimization between men and women, right? Oh, well, we don't want to look at that. We just want to look at that for prevalence, but not the prevalence among men. Choose your poison, Charly. That somewhere, no matter what you choose, it's going to be uncomfortable for your ideology. But of course, they don't have to. They just can keep pivoting and pivoting and pivoting. Oh, the conviction stats, we can't look at them because it only shows what those races we choose to convict. Oh, does it also show that? No, it doesn't, no, but in terms of which sex we prefer to convict, that's absolutely accurate to reality. Oh, don't look at the conviction stats when we're looking at prevalence, because women don't feel empowered to report their rapes in this horrible patriarchy that's gonna put them in jail for having been sexually assaulted or some crap, right? And it's just around and around and around and around you go. Where you stop? Well, where you stop is on blaming men, because we always stop there. That's always the end goal. Okay, did you want to add anything to this, Brian?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
Yeah, I think that's good. Let me
All
just
right.
look
So,
at. Do we miss any super chats, super chows? No.
okay. So Perplexity says Charly won this. Her pattern supports a world where some groups are shielded from group-based suspicion, while men are not. Male threat remains a legitimate default narrative, and male uniqueness is not defended. So essentially, Perplexity looked through this and said Charly won because she managed to maintain the line and the frame on male threat. And it didn't move from there. And it needs to move from there. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Do you want me to play some more, or?
No. I think we've engaged with this 2 days in a row now. Well, not in a row.
Yeah.
But 2 consecutive days with Thursday not
This
doing
has
it. But
been sufficiently explored.
yes, I feel satiated or something. All right. So I'll take a look and see if there's anything new. Maybe I'll poke the voles. If you guys want to send a message, like get one in, slide it in under the wire, do it right now. feedthebadger.com/justthetip. I did want to briefly talk or speak about a correction that Quran Strong gave us last night, or actually after the show on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
So apparently Julian Delmont. It's a Belgian movie, right? Not the best. Okay. The movie is
Okay.
3.5 hours of this woman doing chores, and the big climactic revelation was she dropped a fork, and then she killed a man, and that was it. 3.5 hours of it. All right. It was voted the best movie. It wasn't voted the best movie of 2022. It was voted the best movie of all time, according to the 2022 edition of the prestigious Sight and Sound list. I'm just not media. That's Quran Song pointing the finger at me. You're not media literate enough to appreciate high IQ stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That is 100% it. And yes, I did watch that thing, and I watched it because we are going to do a response on it. And anybody who defends it as saying it's some kind of art, no, it's didactic. It's basically 3.5 hours of boredom because they're trying to show you how awful it is to be a homemaker. Right?
Ugh.
That's didactic, right? So the reason why they're boring the crap out of you is because they're trying to prove to you that homemaking is awful. And yet they have specifically selected only times when she's doing chores, and they've overemphasized those chores. So they're showing it taking more time than it actually would. Homemakers have 11 hours more leisure time than the breadwinners who support them. So there's no way they're only doing chores. They're also going to be watching soaps. They're going to be reading romance novels. They're going to be doing puzzles. Maybe they'll even be engaging in intellectual, intelligence building activities with their children, like play, So there's a lot more going on in homemakers' lives. So the director and writer specifically chose to show this. It is not accurate to the actual lives of homemakers, to make a didactic point, to bore us in order to make us believe a lie. Right? Okay, that's not art. That is not art. That is a freaking woke struggle session in film form. Okay.
Yep.
And I'm going to have to do like another hour of talking about this crap. Oh, okay. All right. So feedthebadger.com/just the tip if you want to send us a message. Have you watched the ineffable Julian Delman? I think that's how you pronounce it. Probably somebody's going to come in and say that it's not pronounced that way at all. But yeah, have you watched that movie? It's fairly easy to find. It's basically 3.5 hours of a woman doing chores. Came out in the 70s in Belgium. Okay. Tell me about it. Did you enjoy it? And if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Brian. Did you want to add anything to this?
I have not seen that, and I have no interest in it. No. No, it's time for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that said, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of this, Maintaining Frame, basically. And we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.